All right, so this lecture is going to be about reading, fill in the blanks, and reading and writing, fill in the blanks. These are two different areas of PTE, and the skills that are needed here are the same skills. So you will need similar skills to crack this this part of the course. So I'm going to be sharing a lot of tips here, so please pay attention, and we are going to get straight into it right now. So I'm going to share my screen with you today. So the agenda involves a lot of things that are really important. So first we will start with the reading fill in the blanks, and obviously in reading fill in the blanks we've got strategies to start with. So understanding what kind of things to look out for. These are the strategies that you should know before you're going into the PD exam. Then we're going to do the warm-up exercise, all right, to just check your understand the activity a little bit more, and then we'll ease into the skills that you need. So obviously understanding what skills are needed, and I will share a few skills that you should pay attention to. If you're not thinking that way, you should be thinking in that direction. Vocabulary build. So obviously we'll understand the vocabulary, how to build that, and we'll do a word bank. So obviously there are parts of speech. So in parts of speech, you've got noun, verb, adjective, adverb, all of these things. We'll see, how to build a word bank out of that, right? And then we'll do collocations. This is also one of the most important thing that you should know. So you should have some knowledge of collocation to be able to do the fill in the blanks part properly, because without knowledge of collocation, you wouldn't be able to do this. So I'll share what the collocation is once we get into more detail here. So then, and I'll briefly touch on scoring. So scoring, we'll briefly touch on what it covers and how do you get it scored and what kind of components you get scoring on. And then practice. We're going to do a lot of practice here today. Obviously, practice is the key here. So I will give you the skills that are needed to crack your PT, but also I will let you do the practice as well, and I'll do it with you so that you can see how we apply those skills that I've just taught you. Okay. Then we are going to talk about reading and writing fill in the blanks. Reading and writing fill in the blanks. We've got strategies. Again, we'll start with the strategies, a little bit slightly different strategies that we'll need, but similar. And then we're going to talk about scoring, obviously, and then we're going to see, what are the difference in reading and writing and scoring. You get a scoring for writing as well, so do pay attention there. And then we're going to do a little bit of practice of reading and writing as well. Okay, so let's get into it. The next screen, we can see we are talking about strategies first of all. So this is reading and writing fill in the blanks. So before you read anything, skim the entire text very quickly. So very quickly, you read the whole thing first before looking at the blanks. Don't really worry about that much. The first things first, what we're trying to get at is we're trying to understand the topic. We're trying to understand the topic. Is it about science? Is it about environment? Is it about climate change? Is it about business management, for example? So you are going to get topics from academic areas, because this is a PT academic test, and obviously you should know that you are trying to become a professional in Australia or any other country, and you are going to be tested on those academic skills. All right. So before reading, obviously skim the entire text quickly. Skim means quickly read it, right? And then while you're reading it, fill in the blanks one by one. So fill in the blanks one by one. Once you have the first blank, try to think of what could be the correct answer. Think about it. If you're unsure, you can move on to the next one, because sometimes you'll get stuck, and there will be instances where you will not know the answer. You'll have to guess it. So just skip that and do the ones that you know. Do the ones that you're comfortable with or confident about. All right, because you may lose a lot of time not doing those. Then we're going to talk about use language cues as well as word knowledge. So language cues. What are language cues? Obviously understanding the topic, what type of language is being used, and also the word knowledge. Word knowledge is obviously the grammar, plurals. Should we use plural in that situation? Should we use pronouns? Should we use collocations? Should we use adjective, verb, noun? All these kind of things that we have learned, obviously, in our speaking area as well. Next up, we've got reading, obviously, after reading. So once you have read everything, and once you have finished, filling in the gaps, you will reread the text to make sure it makes sense. So in the end, after you've done the exercise, you read the whole text and see if it all makes sense in terms of meaning, in terms of vocabulary, in terms of word choice and stuff like that. Make changes and read the text again. If you have to make changes, think that something doesn't feel right, you make the change and reread the text one more time. And if you're not sure about the fill-in, if you're not sure about the gap and what word you're supposed to use, still make an attempt. All right, if you don't make an attempt, you will still lose marks. So there is no negative marking here. So please do attempt at least. If you got it wrong, you got it wrong. If you got it right, that's a bonus, right? So always guess the answer. All right, so we're going to do a warm-up activity. This actually, this paragraph is actually going to give you an introduction of what fill in the blanks is. This is reading fill in the blanks and understanding the fill in the blanks. So skim the text first. We want to skim the text to understand what the topic is. And we understand the topic here is understanding the fill in the blanks item type, right? That's what we're trying to do. So that's why it's a warm-up activity. So I will read it like this. Without paying attention to the gaps, I will read it. The reading fill in the blanks item requires correct answer for each blank. This item, your ability to use context and grammatical cues to identify words that complete a reading text. This item type has a reading text with 2 to 5 blanks. Below the reading text, there is a box. 6 to 8 words. There are 3 more words in the box than the number of blanks, so you do not have to all the words. The reading text for this item type are up to 80 words in length. Okay, so I've just read it to understand the topic. I was trying to understand what the topic is, and obviously this is talking about fill in the blanks item type. It's explaining what it is and how many blanks are you going to get, and how to really tackle this this activity, right? So reading fill in the blanks. Now I'm going to read it again, and I'm going to pay attention, and I'm going to start filling the gaps one by one. Right? So fill in the blanks item types require correct answer. Requires what correct answer? Think about it for each blank. You got it. Single correct answer, right? So you got to think about, what can be right. Complete correct answer. I mean, you're looking for a number. You're looking for a number, isn't it? So 3 correct answer, you can't correct answers. If it's going to be 3, then it should be answers, right? But here is correct answer. It has to be either single. Yeah. Use correct answer requires a use correct answer. That doesn't make any sense. We can't use a verb here. So this item type, and I'm going to show you the answers real quick after this one. But how I'm trying to, I just want you to see how I am attempting this activity. All right, this item, your ability to use context and grammatical cues to identify words that complete a reading text. This item tests your ability, right? So if you look at this one, this item, what ability? So your ability, that means you're looking for a verb, isn't it? You're looking for a verb. So what are the verbs here? This item type, use your ability to use contextual grammatical cues. It doesn't make sense. So yes, you know that the word choice here is verb, but it doesn't make any contextual or logical sense here. So you'll have to look at the verbs that you've got here. And this item type, it's only one item type, so it should be a singular verb form. And singular verb forms here: practices, contains, and tests, right? So you've got 3 options here. You know that it's a verb here, has to be a verb. So test your ability contextually, that sounds right, and that's the answer. So that's the answer that you will go for. Practices your ability, doesn't really practice, or it doesn't really contain, it tests your ability, right? To use contextual context and grammatical cues to identify words that complete a reading text. Okay, this item type has a reading text with 2 blanks in it, right? So you're looking for another number, right? Isn't it? So this item type has a reading text with how many blanks? So you can even count the blanks, like you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've got 5 here, but it's saying that it from this to this, it ranges. It gives you a range. So you're looking for another number. And if you look at the box here at the bottom, you can see there's only one, either single. You can't really use a single. So you're looking for a number, right? 2, 5. So 3 to 5, 3 to 5 blanks in it. So really have to drill down into understanding the meaning of each blank and read around the blank and understand, what the meaning is. All right, moving on. Below the reading text, there is a box which 6 to 8 words. So which below the reading text, there is a box, and you've got a box here. You can read, you can look at that box. It contains, right? Doesn't it? It contains 6 to 8 words. We need a verb here. Now, there are 3 more words in the box than the number of blanks. So you do not have to what? You again need a verb here, isn't it? You do not have to use all the words. You don't have to use all the words. The reading text that for this item type are up to 80 words in length. Okay, so I'm going to show you the answers now, and you can see that the reading, and we're going to read it and really understand it. I want you to understand the topic as well, and I want you to understand what it says, because this is actually going to help you to know what this reading item type is. Okay, so the reading fill in the blanks item requires a single correct answer for each blank. Okay, that is one point that they give you. This item tests your ability to use context and grammatical cues to identify words that complete a reading text. It tests your ability. This item type has a reading text with 3 to 5 blanks in it. Okay, remember that you're going to get either 3, 4, or 5. Below the reading text, there is a box which contains 6 to 8 words. So you've got, and it will always be 3 more, right? So you get 3 blanks. How many words are you going to get? You're going to get 6 words to choose from, right? If they give 3, it'll be easier for you, but they give you 3 extra to make it harder for you, right? So you're going to get 3 more than what the number of blanks. So if you got 5 blanks, you're going to get 8 words, right? So that's what it's trying to say here. There are 3 more words in the box than the number of blanks. So you do not have to use all the words. You don't have to use all the words. The reading text for this item type are up to 80 words in length. Cool. Okay, we will move on. This was a warm-up activity. I hope you got an idea of what this activity is about. Okay, moving on. So we're going to talk about first activity. Now this is skills. I'm teaching you skills. So we talked about strategies. We did a warm-up activity. We really understood, what to fill in the blanks is. Okay, now I want you to really be focused, because here is where we are going to learn the skills that are needed to really do this task properly. Okay, so first one is grammatical context. What is grammatical context? So for example, you need to understand, or you need to think about, what kind of verb do we need? What kind of word do we need here? Do we need a noun? Do we need a verb? Do we need a plural? Do we need pronoun? All of these things you need to really think about. These are called grammatical context. So using grammatical context of word, for example, in here, we had tests a verb that follows with and agrees with the subject item, right? So it says that item tests. So item what would item do? Item will test. So you should think about it. We are looking for a verb, and then you go for the test, right? And in the activity that we just did before. I'm just using that as an example, so hopefully you can make sense of that. Combining words to make logical phrases. So this is the second point that I want to make, is logical phrases. So I think not just think about the grammatical cues, but also think about the logic. And to be able to think about logical phrases, you need to pay attention and really understand the meaning of the context. So logical phrases, what did we have here? We had the phrase "to 5 blanks needs another number" at the beginning. So if you understood what the meaning or logic here is, you can really crack it very quickly. You can really guess the answer very, very quickly, because you will know that we're looking for another number here, right? Some words, such as question, make neither grammatical or lexical sense. So you've got 3 more extra words, right? And that's where it's talking about, for example, a word question. It doesn't really make any grammatical sense, either as a singular noun or a conjugated verb cannot. So it's either a noun, or the question can be a noun, it can be a verb. It doesn't really make any sense. It can be used in a grammatically correct way. And you can try that, go back to the screen, rewind this video, and you can watch. Your question will not really make any sense if you wanted to apply question to any of the blanks. And it does not make lexical sense as a missing word in any of the blanks, right? So we'll move on. So these are 3 things that I want you to pay attention. Actually, it's two things really. Third one is really to understand, some of the words are just given there and they will not make any logical sense or a grammatical sense. That's out of the way. First 2, really, really important. Understand the grammatical context. What kind of word are you looking for? And the second thing is, it should make meaningful sense before using it. You can't just use it. You really need to think about the meaning and what it means. Okay. All right, moving on. So as you can see here, and I'll just share quickly, question here you can't really use. The question, the reading fill in the blanks item requires question, correct answer. Nah, it doesn't really make sense here. The item questions your ability doesn't make sense here. The item test has a reading text with question to 5, it doesn't make sense here. A box which questions 6 to 8 words doesn't make sense here, and do not have question all the words. So that's how it is. Moving on. So now we're going to talk about, we'll do another activity, right? And I want you to pause here, and I want you to do it on your own. Once, apply all those skills that we just talked about. And this is reading and writing fill in the blanks. So again, it's introducing the reading and writing fill in the blanks. Do it on your own. Pause the video here. And then when we come back, I will share with you how we would go about it, how we are going to solve this question. Okay, so we are back. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about reading and writing fill in the blanks here. So we just talked about reading fill in the blanks, but we want to go talk about, what is reading and writing fill in the. It's a slightly different way of testing your knowledge, but it's testing similar skills. Can you get the right word using your context knowledge or lexical knowledge, and also your grammatical knowledge? All right, so it's testing two skills here. So, all right, let's read it out. The reading and writing fill in the blanks item is a reading item type. It's a reading item type. So obviously you'll skim the first one first. You're gonna read the whole thing quickly to understand the topic. And topic obviously is about reading and writing item type, right? So fill in the blanks item is a reading item type. It requires a single correct answer for each blank. This item tests your ability to use contextual and grammatical cues to words that complete a reading text. It assesses reading and skills. The item type has a reading text with up to 6 blanks in it. Each blank has up to 5 answers, up to 5 answer. Obviously, you're looking for, but we'll talk about that. The reading tests for this item type are up to 300 words in length. Okay. I'll just read it out again. So I skimmed it and I kind of got an idea that this is all about talking about reading and writing item type. It's introducing reading and item type for us. So the reading and writing, fill in the blanks, item type is a item type. What kind of item type? So look at the options here. Complete item type, complete reading item type, doesn't make sense. Answer item type, doesn't make sense. Identify reading item type, no. Multiple choice reading item type can be, we're looking for what? We're looking for adjective, isn't it? It's a reading item type. Speaking reading item doesn't make sense. Chooses, gap, choices, writing. It has to be multiple choice. So multiple choice is the adjective here that we can use. It requires a single correct answer for each blank. It requires, so we talked about multiple choice, and it also agrees, when you think about it, it requires a single correct answer. It is giving you that we will talk about multiple choice, then it requires you the correct single answer. So it's agreeing with the meaning, lexical meaning of the context of this paragraph, right? This item type tests your ability to use contextual and grammatical cues to again, what are we looking for in terms of word choice? I think you guessed it. We are looking for a verb. All right. Look at the verbs here. We've got answer, we've got identify, we've got complete, we've got chooses, we've got gap. Not gap. Gap is not a verb, and then writing. So we've got quite a lot. And speaking is also, it could be a verb as well. But what kind of verb are we looking for? Are we looking for infinitive, or what word, base form, or what kind of verb you're looking for? ING form. There are different types of verb forms. So if you think about it here, it requires a single correct answer for each blank. The item tests your ability to use contextual and grammatical cues to identify words that complete a reading text. Right? Words, no. Chooses cannot be. To, because we're using to, so we have to use infinitive. We have to use the base form. We can't really use singular verb form. So you should know that by now. And then choices. So yeah, identify, right? So you're gonna identify words that complete a reading text. It assesses reading and what? You can see in the start, it starts with the reading and writing. So it's checking your reading and writing skills, isn't it? Reading and writing skills, that's easy. This item type has a reading text with up to 6 blanks in it. Each blank has up to 5 answer choices, isn't it? You've got choices. Answer choices. Again, you're talking about multiple choice. It has choices. It has up to 5 answer choices. The reading text for this item type are up to 300 words in length. So you can see that the text is going to be a little bit longer. So I hope you got an idea of how we are working through this activity, but I also want you to understand this introduction of the activity. So I'm going to read it out again. I'll share the answers with you and we'll read together. So obviously we've got multiple choice. So the reading and writing fill in the blanks item is a multiple choice reading item type. It's a multiple choice reading item type, right? It requires single correct answer for each blank. So it's a multiple choice. You've got multiple choice, and it requires single correct answer. You've got to choose one answer from the multiple list that you have, multiple choice list. This item tests your ability to use contextual and grammatical cues. Again, these two things are tested again and again. I will keep telling you that it's testing your grammatical skills to identify what kind of word that you need, and it's also testing your contextual. So can you understand the context as well to identify words that complete a reading text. It assesses reading and writing skills, not only reading and writing. So again, it's even talking about scoring here, and I will discuss scoring with you later on, but it gives you a way here very nicely that it's testing not only reading skills, but it's also testing your reading and writing. Your both reading and writing skills. This item type has the reading text with up to 6 blanks in it. 6 blanks. The last one was talking about a range. it was going from 3 to 5. This one ranges from it says up to 6. So it doesn't tell you what the range is, but it tells you it could be up to 6 blanks. If you're lucky, you'll get 6. Just kidding. But 6 blanks. It's quite a lot of work. If you get six blanks, you must assume yourself very lucky. Hopefully not. Each blank has up to 5 answer choices, right? So it can have, again, it says up to 5. So it could have 3, could have 4, could have 5. It says up to 5. It will never be more than 5, and you'll never get more than 6 blanks. Okay, that's how it says. The reading a text for this item type are up to 300 words in length. 300 words, quite a big text, and we're going to do practice, and you will see how things look. Cool. So we will move on. The next screen you're going to see again. We're going to talk about fill in the blanks reading skills. Obviously, here we again will. I'll talk about 3 things here. First thing I want to talk about is grammatical context. Again, the grammatical context of the word or phrase tells us that certain kind of word classes, so these are word classes, right, needs to be used. A phrase, the reading item type requires another modifying adjective. So here we talked about reading item type. Again, we're discussing the previous activity that we did before. Phrase reading item type, go back, reading item type, I'll just quickly show you. Reading item type. So we've got reading item type, right? What does it need? This is the phrase reading item type requires another modifying adjective, right? So we talked about it. Adjective is something that explains the noun, right? It describes the noun. So what kind of reading item type it is? It is which rules out the nouns and verbs. So we don't really need the nouns and verbs in the box. We need, while infinitive to, obviously, so we need multiple choice, right? Multiple choice reading item type. And while to, after grammatical cues, needs a verb in the base form. Again, we talked about this, right? So if you go back to identify. What is identify? Identify is the base form verb. You should know that. Identify, identifies the singular verb form, identify the plural verb form also, but it's a base form, right? It's an infinitive form. And then you've got identifying, which is ing form. So these are some of the verb forms that you should be aware of. If you haven't, if you can't recall the basic grammar rules, but these are some of the grammar rules that you should be aware of. All right. Okay, moving on. So you got that. Then we will similarly logical or common phrases can be made by collocating words, right? Collocating words is super important. Collocation, what collocation is basically that in English, some words go together and they make sense when they go together. And this is, you will have to learn collocation. I will provide you with a list of collocations, about 2,500 collocations. You should read them, and you should at least read them twice, 3 times before going into the PTE test, because when you see those words in your reading test, you will be able to identify, recall some of the collocations from that list, and then you'll be able to answer the questions. And also it should be contextually as well. So if you think about the contextual logical phrases, like can be used by collocating. For example, here, reading logically collocates with writing, right? So reading and writing to make the phrase reading and writing skills. Speaking can also be correct. Reading and speaking could also be correct here, but it doesn't make logical sense, right? So when you use collocation, use it with caution, because some of the times, yeah, reading and speaking can also collocate together. Reading and listening can also collocate together, but this one is reading and writing. In the start, it gives you the answer very easily. When it's talking about reading and writing, logically, it should be reading and writing. It shouldn't be reading and speaking. So it gives you some of the options that will be in terms of collocation, they will be correct. In terms of grammar, they might be correct, but you again have to apply that additional layer of a skill, which is lexical or a logical skill. Logical. You need to think about logic. Does it make sense? You should always ask yourself. Does it make sense? All right, cool. We'll keep moving. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna do a fun activity here. We're gonna do vocabulary building, right? We're gonna brainstorm some ideas of building vocabulary. I'll give you a topic. So first topic I'm gonna give you is gonna be New Year's festival. So what we're gonna look at, we're gonna do word bank. So in our next screen, I'm gonna give you a word bank to fill in. And before I do that, I'll share some of the words that I will use to fill this table. In these columns, let's read out the columns. We've got some words that I'm going to share with you, and you will think about, brainstorm some of the words on your own, and then you will come up with the words, and then you will write down their noun forms. You'll write down their adjective forms, their verb forms, adverb forms, synonyms, antonyms, and collocations, right? So let's just look at some of the words. Party. The first word is party. So some of the words, by the way, would not have an adjective form or an adverb form or antonym that you might not be able to think of. That's fine, completely fine. But whatever you can fill, try to fill in those. So some of the words that I will share with you. First, party. Noun form is party, right? Adjective form doesn't exist. Verb form, to party, right? So to party with to and infinitive or base form. Adverb doesn't exist. Synonyms, we've got celebration. Instead of party, you can say, oh, today I'm going for a celebration or for a party or for a fiesta. You can also say, I'm going for a fiesta or social event, right? These are slightly different and used in a slightly different way, but these are some of the synonyms. Similar meaning. Collocation, we've got collocations, party goer, party animal. So if you, and when you do your collocation, when you read out your collocation, you can't really memorize 2,500 words, but if you read out 2 or 3 times the list that I'm going to share with you, I think that'll really, when you're doing the test in PTE, when you're taking your test, you will be able to recall. For example, if you've seen party and you see goer, it makes sense for you to collocate that word, given that you're also thinking about the contextual meaning. Okay, party animal, party dress, party game, birthday party, New Year's party, garden party, house party, a wild party, to hold a party. So hold a party. So we've got a verb here and then we've got a noun here. To hold a party, to be invited to a party, to attend a party, again a verb, to leave a party. Okay, so these are some of the verbs that you can use with party as well. So collocations, these are some of the collocations. But when you're building your word bank with your own words, brainstorm some of the collocations that you can use. You can think about the phrases that you can use with those words and things like that. Be creative on that front. We're gonna next we're gonna talk about renewal. Renewal. The noun form is renewal. The adjective form is renewed. Verb form is to renew. To renew. And then we've got adverb form, doesn't exist. Synonyms, a fresh start, right? So you could say renew actually means, starting something new. So a fresh start, instead of renew, you could use a fresh start. Antonyms, we've got an end, a final completion, right? So this is an end, this is not a beginning of something. A final completion is also the opposite of that. Collocations, renewal celebrations, renewal rituals, renewal rites. All of these are collocations. And all right, now we're gonna do practice. Okay, this is the time where we actually do the practice. The first activity that we've got, this is reading fill in the blanks. We're touching on reading fill in the blanks here. The new year. So again, you will read and understand the topic. First thing, we will skim the text. We're not going to focus on fill in the blanks at this point in time. And what we're trying to get at is we're trying to understand the meaning of this text, and we're trying to understand the topic. Okay, topic is not important. I mean, meaning is important, right? What is it about? Is it about science? Is it about rituals? What is this about? So I'm going to read this out, try to get a feel of this paragraph, and then we will dive into solving the fill in the blanks part. Okay, well, let's read it out. The New Year is the most important holiday. So I'm going to ignore the fill in the blanks here. The New Year is the most important holiday in Japan and is a symbol of renewal. In December, various Bonenkai of Forget the Year are held to bid farewell to the problems and of the past year and for a beginning. Misunderstandings and grudges are forgiven and houses are scrubbed. At midnight on December 31st, Buddhists strike their gongs 108 times in an effort to 108 types of human weaknesses. So think about it. This one is talking about New Year. The topic kind of is a New Year in a holiday in Japan, talks about farewell, what happens, what do people do, talks about new beginning, talks about misunderstandings are forgiven, and what happens on the day, what happens on midnight of 31st of December. We talked about Buddhist, we talked about gongs, we talked about human weaknesses and stuff like this. So theme here is the New Year, isn't it? We got that. Now let's start solving one by one. Let's do it. And the one that we don't know the answer, or we think we don't feel really comfortable and confident, we can skip that and we can move on to the next one. We don't have to waste time. All right, let's do that. The New Year is the most important holiday in Japan, and it is a symbol of renewal. In December, various Bonenkai, or forget the year, that's the technical term, Japanese term could be, Bonenkai, or forget the year, are held to bid farewell. Forget the year what? It's celebration, isn't it, in December, right? So you're forgetting the year, forget the year. You've got augment, you've got parties, you've got foresee, expel, prepare, concerns, temples, and areas. So I think you're looking for a noun, isn't it? And we know party is one of the nouns. Forget the year party, doesn't it make sense? It does make sense that it has to be a celebration in December. That's what they're trying to do, are held to bid farewell to the problems and of the past year. So problems of the past year, and what else can we have? Problems, and so whenever these things are used like that, problems and this, you need another verb that has similar meaning as problems. If you think about it, again, noun, you're looking for a noun, right? So bid farewell to problems and concerns. Concern has a similar meaning. So problems and concerns of the past year and for a new beginning. And if I don't even look at the box, I'm thinking of the past year and expel for a beginning. Does it make sense? And I mean, we need a verb here, don't we? We need a verb here. I think you got that. Of the past year and foresee for a new beginning. Doesn't make sense. Expel or prepare. So what are you going to do? You're going to be preparing for the new year, isn't it? So I'm really thinking about the meaning here, and I'm getting the answers. I'm not even thinking about grammar that much, but I'm thinking about the grammar in terms of, does it make sense? I'm applying another layer on top, thinking about the grammar later, understanding what is needed here. I feel that prepare makes a lot of sense here of the past year and prepare for a beginning. So you're going to prepare for the new beginning, and you also need a verb here, don't you? It has to be a verb that is doing the new beginning, right? Misunderstandings and grudges are forgiven and houses are scrubbed. Okay, that's one thing that happens at beginning on at midnight on December 31st. Buddhist something. Okay, so Buddhist is used as an adjective, and then you need another something, which is a noun. Should be a noun here, don't you think? Strike, that's a verb. Strike their gongs 108 times. So if you think about it, strike their gongs, Buddhist. What could it be? Where do we see gongs striked? 108 times? Obviously, has to be temples, isn't it? So Buddhist temples are where, you know, people go to pray. So Buddhists go to pray. So Buddhist temples strike their gongs 108 times in an effort to 108 types of human weaknesses. What are they trying to do with this 108 times of human weaknesses? By doing that, 108 times they're striking the gongs. What do they think? They should get rid of something. So what are, in terms of meaning, and we need a verb here, don't we? So what kind of a verb that tells us that you can get rid of this 108 types of meaning weaknesses? Look at that word expel, isn't it? So expel has the meaning that fits perfectly here. Expel 108 types of human weaknesses. And again, I'll stress on this point is that learning synonyms, if you knew get rid of, you can learn the synonyms, but also read a lot of articles. Again, in the end of the lesson, I want to make a really important point as to reading a lot of articles, and especially reading technical articles like science articles and some of the cultural article. This is a cultural article, isn't it? It's talking about Japanese culture. So reading about cultural article, arts article, science article is definitely going to help you in your academic test, right? Because that's where they get these words. So let's look at the answers now. Again, it talks about the New Year is the most important holiday in Japan and is a symbol of renewal. In December, various Bonenkai. After you fill in the blanks, you read it all again back to yourself to see if it all makes sense. Okay, so the New Year is the most important holiday in Japan and is a symbol of renewal. In December, various Bonenkai, or forget the year, parties are held to bid farewell to the problems and concerns and of the past year and prepare for a new beginning. Misunderstandings and grudges are forgiven, and houses are scrubbed. At midnight on December 31st, Buddhist temples strike their gongs 108 times in an effort to expel 108 types of human weaknesses. Okay, so I want you to pause here and read the tips for identifying the correct answers. I already discussed with you in my own way, but I want you to read the correct answers, the explanation that is given here. This is the explanation that PTE has given us. And I want you to read it out on your own time. Pause the video here and read out the tips for identifying the correct answers, also the wrong answers, and then come back and we will continue the lesson. So now we're going to focus on vocabulary building, collocation table. Okay. So in terms of collocation table, here we've got noun and verbs, right? So, and the theme that I'm giving you here is research. Okay. So we've got some nouns such as research, documentation, data, studies, and results. And we've got some verbs vertically: do, make, conduct, pursue, analyze, and read. Okay, so I want you to think of this table and put a tick if these two words go together. Do you think? And put a cross in the box in the table if you think these two words don't go together. For example, do research. Does it go together? Put a tick there. If it's or a check mark, and if it doesn't go together, for example, conduct documentation. If you think that these two words don't go together, they don't collocate together, then put a cross. All right, next to it, show you all the answers. Here, do research. That's correct. So these two words collocate together. Do research. Do documentation. We don't really do documentation. So these two words don't go together. Do data. Incorrect. Do studies. Correct. Do results. Not really. Make research. We don't make research. We don't make documentation. make data, make studies, and make results. These are all wrong. Okay. Conduct research, that is correct. Conduct documentation, incorrect. Conduct data, don't conduct data. Conduct studies, and we don't conduct results. Pursue, we pursue research, right? We pursue documentation, not really. We pursue data, not really. We pursue studies, and we pursue results, incorrect. Analyze data, that is correct. So analyze can go, analyze can collocate with research, documentation, data, studies, results, all of them. Read can also collocate with all of these words: read research, read documentation, read data, read studies, read results. Okay, so I hope you got a chance to do it on your own and look at the answers right after. If you haven't, please do pause. I did forget to tell you that. Then go back and pause the video and do it on your own, and then only look at the answers. Don't try to follow along in this case. All right, we'll move on. We'll look at phrasal verbs here. So we've got some of the prepositions. These are phrasal verbs that uses some of the verbs, and it's using it with to, right? So to with plus infinitive. And then we've got the prepositions. So we've got prepositions on, out, up, very common prepositions. And I want you to pause the video here, try to do it on your own, and we'll see if you got them right. And we'll discuss. So we've got to speak, to up, put up, to count, to rely, and to look. Okay, and we'll discuss the meaning of each one of them as well. All right, I hope you got a chance to do this activity on your own. Now we're going to discuss the correct ones. Now there is a caveat here, but I will share, what each of them means in terms of their meaning, and what are the things that they can, collocate together. We've got verbs and prepositions here. We've got on, out, and up, and we've got to speak, to put, to count, to rely, and to look. So first one we've got here is to speak on. It says here, it doesn't collocate, but if you read the notes, it does provide you an explanation. We can say speak on a topic, right? But that is not a phrasal verb. So the only reason why they say that you can't really collocate them together is not because you can't really collocate them together. You can actually collocate them together. You got it right. You got it actually right, because these two do go together, and they collocate. So now we're going to talk about. So the first one is we can say we can speak on a topic. That is, speak about something. So I'm speaking on PT at the moment, right? Or I'm speaking on reading and writing at the moment. Okay. Second one, we've got speak out. Speak out means protest. So you're protesting something. Speak up means speak louder. So if someone says to you, speak up, that means they can't really hear you. So speak up, that means you speak louder. To put on, that's used for, putting on clothes, for example, right? To put on something on the wall, you can also use that. That's a phrasal verb, right? To put out, to extinguish, to place outside. Okay, so put that outside, or put out the fire, for example. Extinguish. To put up, to endure. Put up, to endure, to tolerate something, right? I have to put up with this nonsense, for example. All right, I mean, people say that a lot. If you're tolerating something you don't really enjoy. Okay, to count on means to need someone. I'm counting on my friend's help, for example. You need his help. That's what it means. To count out, to count slowly or audibly. Can you count out the money? Can you count out the money? I mean, you could say that. Can you count out the numbers or things like that? Can you count out people in that group out there? All right. To count up means to calculate. Can you count up the budget? for example, to calculate, to total something. To rely on means to be independent. I'm relying on my brother. I'm relying on my father, my mom, things like that. So if you are depending on someone, then you use that, rely on that person. And we don't really use rely out or rely up. To look means to look on, means to watch without being involved in it. To look out means to protect. I look out for my brothers. I look out for my dogs. I need to protect them. I'm talking about look up. So if you're going to talk about look up, to locate, to admire, or to respect. All right. So to locate, to admire, or to respect. That's I look up to my older brother, or I look up to my father for inspiration. Right. That's what it means. So please pause the video here and please read the notes. And I want you to read the notes to gain a better understanding of all of these phrasal verbs, because these phrasal verbs are quite common, but you should also learn a lot of phrasal verbs that come in handy, that can come in handy in your PTE test. Phrasal verbs, remember them. Those are one of the areas that you need to work on your own. All right, we'll keep moving. Now we're going to do, we're going to talk about collocation, right? So in terms of collocation, we already discussed this. These are the words that often go together. And these are, in English, these words kind of make sense when they go together. And you will have to just learn them by heart. But I mean, don't memorize. I don't believe in memorizing them because you can't really memorize, but at least read the list that I'll provide you, or PD actually has provided that list of about 2,500 words. And you just read them at least two times before going to your test, because then that's going to help you recall those collocations if you come across them in your test. Okay, so for example, the phrase general public, this is a collocation. You have the general and public. So this is collocation. And again, you will have to think about your context here. So it's a common collocation. You can quickly see that public might be a good choice for the first blank in the sentence below. You think about it, and also think about the context. So second, they connect scientists to general public. They connect scientists to who? General public. So that's how you will collocate it. After collocating the word, we will think about the meaning. Does it make sense? Yes, it makes sense. Connecting scientists to general public actually makes sense in this sentence. Moving on. Okay, let's look at the grammar. The knowledge of grammar is something that you need as well, as we talked about, part of a speech or verb or noun, adjective, and all these kind of things, word classes. And the choose words with correct meaning after eliminating the wrong ones. You can also do the elimination strategy. So what happens is that you will look at the words and you know that there are 3 more words than the blanks. You look at the words that doesn't make sense. So you just start eliminating them. So that's one of the ways you can also eliminate some of the words that you think are not correct. Okay. So let's look at this one. We've got scientific papers are now beginning to blogs as references. Are beginning to be to when you see to, we need a verb, isn't it? We need an infinitive verb or a base form verb here, right? So you can look at what kind of verb we've got. What verbs do we have here? We've got cite, we've got look, we've got view. These are some of the verbs that are in base form or infinitive form, right? So you think about it. The first, for example, look, right? View and look fit in the terms of form, but they have the wrong meaning. So if I put in look, for example, I'll try to put in look, and this is, I'm eliminating them, right? Scientific papers are now beginning to look blogs as references. Doesn't make sense. View blogs, beginning to view blogs as references. Doesn't make sense. What do we do? I mean, what's the meaning of cite, right? So if you guys do assignments, you do a lot of citations of references, right? So with references, even if you look at references, you are citing the blogs as reference. So cite reference. This is the collocation that go together, right? So if you talk about this one, only cite fits in terms of meaning and form, and also collocation, because it's kind of collocating with references, isn't it? So we've got references, we cite references, don't we? In terms of this one, that's the best option that you've got. In terms of serving is another verb, but it has ing form, right? So when you see to, can you use serving? Can you use ing form? That's the question you should ask yourself. So whenever you see to, that should be easy for you to understand that you are looking for an infinitive. So prescribed and serving, you've got prescribed as well. That's another verb here. I actually missed out on that, but prescribed and serving are verbs, but they are not in the correct, or they're in the wrong form. They're not in the correct form. Okay. All right, we'll move on, and we'll talk about scoring now. So very briefly, I want to say that you've got communicative skills and you've got enabling skills. In this case, you're only going to get marks for reading. Okay, you're going to get marks for reading. Yeah. This one is fill in the blanks reading. Reading fill in the blanks, you will only get marks for reading. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Very quickly, I wanted to touch on this. All right, now we're going to do practice. All right, so I want you to pause here, do it on your own, read the article first to understand the meaning, and then start doing the blanks one by one. You can either you can use the elimination strategy, but always remember, what are we looking for? We are looking for grammatical cues, we're looking for logic, and we're looking for collocation. Okay, so try it on your own, and we're going to do it together once we come back. All right, I hope you got an opportunity for doing it on your own. And now let's discuss how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to start reading, and you can see the article is very, very technical, isn't it? It's talking about history. So you can get articles about, history. You can get articles on scientific things. And that's why it's very, very important for you to start reading out articles online. Go read articles, just Google them. Just go on Google and write scientific articles. If you are in university, you already read a lot of articles in your books. If you're learning history, cultural articles, things like that, that is exactly what you're going to get in your test. It's going to be an academic piece of work. Okay. All right. So I'm going to read this out. This one is about, seems like it's history, but we're going to read it. Considering their lingering reputation as man killers, it's hardly surprising that hackles are raised anytime someone brings up the idea of wolves to the Scottish Highlands. So if you think about it, it's idea of what? We're looking for a verb here, I think. Wolves. Debate on this topic has been raging for years. Something would like to see. So we need a noun here, don't we? Would like to see the highland environment return to its natural state. Opponents, the animals for killing livestock. Opponents, the animals for killing livestock. We need a verb, don't we? Opponents, the animals for killing animals. And it's possessive noun, so you've got animals, something, right? So you need possessive. Animals, a noun for killing livestock. So let's look at the options. So first I read just to understand, and it's talking about man killers, it's talking about hackles, it's talking about talking about wolves in Scottish Highland. That's the topic, right? Debating on the subjects ranging for highland environment, natural state, killing livestock, and stuff like that. So that's the article. It's about wolves, it's about livestock, it's about man killers. It's a history kind of a thing, an article. So let's start with the first one. Let's go one by one now. Considering their lingering reputation as man-killers, it's hardly surprising that hackles are raised anytime someone brings up the idea of wolves into the Scottish Highland. Let's look at some of the things. And we're looking for a verb. Are we looking for infinitive verb? Not really. I mean, with of normally, brings up the idea of this in terms of collocation, what we normally with of here we would want a ing form of verb. Okay, so we've got two of them: acquainting, and we've got in reintroducing. We've got two verbs with ing, but in here reintroducing seems a lot more accurate. So idea of reintroducing, I'm going to read it as well. I will put the word there and see if it makes sense. All right, so we're going to talk about debates on this topic has been raging for years. Someone would like to see, right? So who is that someone? Would like to see the highland environment return to its natural state. Opponents. So you've got the other side. What does opponent mean? Opponent mean someone on the other side. So you need someone and then you need opponent. So you've got people who are opposite of this people. So the opposite of these people would be proponents, right? Proponents would be the ones that are supporting the idea, right? Proponents would like to see the highland environment return to its natural state. So it makes sense logically, grammatically, and in terms of collocation, we don't really have the collocation cue here, but we can use that. Opponents. And I think we need a verb here, don't we? We need a verb here. So opponents cite the animals for killing livestock. So opponents, so we need a verb here, don't we? Opponents, so we've got only two verbs here, which are in the plural form of verb, because opponents is plural, so we need a plural form of verb, which is similar to base form. And we can't use ing form here. So we've got only two options here, either cite or accuse. So opponents, and we need a verb here, don't we? The animals for killing livestock. And again, animals killing propensity, isn't it? So propensity is a tendency to do something. It's kind of the behavior of doing something. So we need a noun here, don't we? We need a possessive noun. So animals, propensity, tendency, or behavior, that's what it means. Propensity, we got that right. But opponents, we've got two options, accuse or cite. We need two options. We need to choose from two options here, because we need the noun, plural noun form, and they are actually giving their argument, right? So when they're giving the argument, they're citing. Opponents cite the animal's propensity for killing livestock. So let's look at the answers now. Yep, and after you have filled in all the answers, read one more time to see if it all makes sense. So now we're going to read it and we're going to see if it all makes sense. Considering their lingering reputation as man-killers, it's hardly surprising that hackles are raised at any time someone brings up the idea of reintroducing wolves to the Scottish Highlands. Debate on this topic has been raging for years. Proponents would like to see the highlands environment return to its natural state. Opponents cite the animal's propensity for killing livestock. We're going to move on to the next one. And this one, again, we're going to read it out. I want you to pause the video here and try to do it on your own, and then we'll come back and review it. So I hope you got a chance to do it on your own. And now we're going to do it together. So first, again, I will read the article first. See, a charge often leveled against organic agriculture is that it is more philosophy than science. There's some theory than science, for example. That's what it means. There's some truth to this indictment, if that is what it is, though why organic farmers should feel about it itself is a mystery, a relic perhaps of our fetishism of science as the only tool with which to approach nature. The philosophy of natural processes precedes the science of understanding them. All right. So this one is talking about organic agriculture. So now we're going to start doing the blanks one by one, right? That's what we said. The best way to do this is to tackle them one by one. So now we'll start to read that. A charge often leveled against organic agriculture is that it is more philosophy than science. There is some truth to this indictment, if that is what it is, though why organic farmers should feel happy about it, should feel sad about it, just to think about it. I'm not even looking at the idea. I'm not even looking at the options in the box, but I'm just thinking of what it could be. Though why organic farmers should feel something. It's an emotion, right? We're looking for an emotion of what they should feel. So should they feel supportive, mimicking, logic, repeating, credible, defensive? I think there are two options to decide from here. They're supportive or defensive, right? So organic farmers is the organic culture. What are they trying to do? They're trying to defend it, right? So they're feeling defensive about it. Self, a mystery. Itself is a mystery, a relic perhaps of or fetishism of science as the only tool. So again, we're looking for adjective, aren't we? Tool, what kind of tool? Is it repeating tool? No, I mean, so adjective here is credible, isn't it? So credible tool. And this is collocation as well. It makes sense in terms of collocation, credible tool. For example, you know, we talk about this quite a lot and we say, oh, this is a credible tool that we can rely on, right? So our fetishism of science as the only credible tool with which to approach nature. The philosophy of natural processes precedes the science of understanding them. The philosophy. Now we're talking about the philosophy of what natural processes precedes the science of understanding them. The philosophy of, we need a verb, right? Don't we? And we said that we're looking for an ing verb, don't we? I think that makes more sense here. So the philosophy of mimicking or repeating. I think we've got two options to choose from here. The philosophy of repeating natural processes precedes the science of understanding them, or the philosophy of mimicking them. I think it's about mimicking. You can't really repeat the natural process. It makes more sense to mimic something. Mimic means copying something. The philosophy of copying natural processes precedes the science of understanding them, right? So we're looking for mimic here. So as you can see, and again, we will read it again to see if it all makes sense. A charge often leveled against organic culture is that it is more philosophy than science, right? Organic culture is more philosophy than science. It's not proven, it's just theory. That's what it means. There's some truth to this indictment. There could be some truth as well. If that is what it is, though why organic farmers should feel defensive about it is itself a mystery, and this theory has been put out, or philosophy has been put out by organic farmers. This is a mystery, perhaps, of our fetishism of science as the only credible tool. So we think that science is the only credible tool with which to approach nature. So we should, you know, when we are approaching nature, we should always think about science, but you know, that's our fetishism. The philosophy of mimicking natural processes precedes the science of understanding them. So very, very tough, as you can see. I'm not gonna lie, this is not an easy, especially for candidates who are not really familiar with, you know, talking about philosophy and science, and you don't read many articles. This is the language that is used, and unfortunately you'll have to do a lot of fill in the blanks articles, and I would suggest do hundreds of them before you go into the real exam, because that's going to help you to be able to do and to have an idea of what kind of language you're looking for, because this is how technical the language will be there. Okay, we'll move on to the item number 3 here, and this one is somewhat easy because I guess most of I mean, not most, but a lot of you might be studying Masters of Science in Information Technology. This is I think it's a very commonly studied course in Australia or any other country or in the world, MSc in IT or Masters of IT. So I think this could be easier for you somewhat, because it's kind of talking about your profession, and the ones who are studying some other profession, it might not be that easy, but I mean, it's not that technical. We still can say, comparatively, this one could be an easy. You can get a mixed bag where you can get easy ones. Sometimes you can get really technical ones, but it really depends on how much reading you do. Okay, let's talk about this. So I'm going to read it so please pause the video here, do it on your own, and then come back and we'll review it together. All right, I hope you got a chance to do it on your own. Now we're going to review it together. I'm going to read the article first, and then I'll do the blanks one by one. Our program will develop your knowledge of computer science and your problem solving and skills while enabling you to achieve the qualification for the IT professional. The program structure is extremely enabling you to personalize your MSc through a wide range of electives. All right, so if you look at the some of the options, we'll start doing it one by one. Our program will develop your analytical knowledge of computer science, right? So if you think about it, what kind of knowledge a program will develop it can be analytical, it can be theoretical as well. I mean, think about it, theoretical knowledge of computer science, and your problem solver. I'll have to see if theoretical is applied somewhere else, or analytical is more appropriate somewhere else, right? We're looking for an adjective, right? So do your either analytical or theoretical could be correct here. Knowledge of computer science, but at the moment I'm just going with analytical. Knowledge of computer science and your problem solving and analytical skills or theoretical skills. Now this is where you really need to make a decision. Theoretical knowledge. Knowledge is theoretical. Skill is analytical. We don't really say theoretical skill. Skill is something that is applied. Knowledge is something that's something that you have. So I think that's more appropriate for me to go with theoretical knowledge of computer science, and then use with skills, I'll use analytical skills. This is the collocation that you should know, because this is very often used together, analytical skills and theoretical knowledge. So they sound pretty good together. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with that, while enabling you to achieve the qualification for IT professional, ultimate qualification. So obviously this is an advertisement from the university telling you, how good their MSc in IT program is. Ultimate qualification. Again, we need an adjective here. Ultimate qualification for the professional. The program structure is extremely variable, flexible. You got to read the context here, enabling you to personalize your MSc through a wide range of electives. You've got a range of electives, and you can personalize it. What is it? It's flexible, isn't it? It's flexible. So you've got another extremely flexible. Another adjective here that you need, but the context will really help you here. Okay. All right, moving on to the next one. All right, so we're going to read the answers here. So I'm going to read the whole thing and see if it all makes sense. Our program will develop your theoretical knowledge of computer science and your problem solving and analytical skills while enabling you to achieve the ultimate qualification of the IT professional. The program structure is extremely flexible, enabling you to personalize your MSc through a wide range of electives. It sounds complete, it sounds correct. Everything looks good. We move on to the next one. All right, the next one, I'm going to read the article first to gain an understanding of the topic, and then I'll do the blanks one by one. Of course, there were many different enlightenments, and scholars still argue about which was the real torchbearer. However, despite their quarrelsome diversity, some Enlightenment thinkers shared certain intellectual traits. On intellectual autonomy of tradition and authority as the infallible source of truth, of bigotry and persecution to free inquiry, that in Francis Bacon's words, knowledge is power. All right, we're going to move on and we're going to read the answers. So, of course, there were many different enlightenments, and scholars still argue about which was the real torchbearer. However, despite their quarrelsome diversity, some Enlightenment thinkers shared certain intellectual traits: insistence on intellectual autonomy, a rejection of tradition and authority, the infallible source of truth, a dislike of bigotry and persecution, a commitment to free inquiry, and belief that in Francis Bacon's words, knowledge is power. All right, now we're going to talk about reading and writing fill in the blanks. Obviously, we'll talk very briefly on the strategies because the strategies are similar. So in reading and writing fill in the blanks, we will select the most appropriate word from a drop-down. We'll skim the passage to understand the context. Again, we'll skim the passage to understand the grammar and meaning, and grammar cues. I mean, obviously, we need to think about the word choices as we go along and understand. So first, we're going to read before and after the blank to understand the context, and we'll look at what the context is. In the example below, only access fits in the phrase gained through technologies. Pick words that match meaning, gain access, and grammar access to. People from Pekin, Illinois, to Pekin, China, saw their lives change. A large percentage of world's population gained to technology that in setting out on my long career in 1948 could not have imagined except in the context of science fiction. Gained access. So we've got access, recess, access, and egress. So gain access. This is a collocation as well. So you need to think about the collocation. Gain access to something. Can I gain access to that file, or can I gain access to something? So this is something you need to know as a collocation. It also makes sense. Gain access to technology, right? So contextually, it makes sense as well. So again, very important to focus on the meaning, focus on the grammatical cues. All right, now we're going to quickly talk about scoring for reading and writing. In this section of the part of fill in the blanks, it's actually testing your contextual and grammatical cues to identify words. That's the skill that is being tested. If all the blanks are correct, you get full marks. If partial blanks are correct, you will get partial marks. There's no negative marking, so feel free to guess the answers. And if you got some of the answers are wrong, you don't really lose marks, so always attempt the answers, okay? It affects your reading and writing scores. All right, now we're going to talk about our first reading and writing fill in the blanks. So I'm going to read the whole article and see if it makes sense to me, and then I will start reading it again, and I'll do the blanks one by one. So this short book has been concerned with the main tool of learning, language. Many people, many children, particularly those in the industrial areas of the country, start their educational lives with this tool blunt. and live their early years in home circumstances which often conspire to keep it with the result, as the young sixth former wrote in chapter 1, that even he becomes increasingly conscious of fluency, which may become the most prominent manifestation of his embarrassment and discomfort. To this, to give the child the confidence which derives from of speech and writing, is surely one of the prime tasks of the country's schools. There is no single recipe to do this well, but it may be helpful to consider the conditions which appear to be to the primary schools whose work has been quoted. So it's talking about learning, talking about language. That's the topic there, and your first sentence kind of give you an idea of what the topic could be. It's talking about many children, particularly those in the industrial areas of the country, start their educational lives with this tool blunt. Basically, tool blunt. It's not that sharp. They're not sharp. And live their early years in home circumstances, which often conspire it to keep it. And the first thing, you've got sharp, same, different, blunt, young. If they've used this blunt, lives with this tool blunt, we can actually repeat that same kind of thing, because they've already used blunt to describe these people. These children. Many children, particularly those in industrial areas of the country, start their educational lives with this tool blunt. So these children are blunt, and their early lives in home circumstances, which often conspire to keep it blunt. So, with the result, as the young sixth former wrote in chapter 1, that even he becomes increasingly conscious of fluency. Shortage of fluency, if you think about collocations here, what could it be? Lack of fluency, obviously. In terms of context, should it be lack? Because this is really like lack of. And in terms of this one, all of these are negative, aren't they? Shortage, difficulty, lack, weaknesses. So they are similar synonyms, but which one is the most accurate one? Lack of fluency, that's what normally I would use. Gap of fluency, not really. Lack, it doesn't, weakness of fluency doesn't make sense here. The difficulty of fluency, we don't really use difficulty of fluency, and shortage of fluency. The most appropriate one that comes to mind here is lack of fluency, right? So they've got lack of fluency, which may become the most prominent manifestation of his embarrassment and discomfort. 2, I think to solve this, right? So that comes to mind, but we'll have a look to avoid this, or to miss this, to waste this, to spare this, to pass this. To avoid this, I think I'm going to go with avoid this, to give the children the confidence which derives from ease of speech, skill of speech, comfort of speech, utility of speech, ability of speech, ease of speech, right? Ease of speech and writing is surely one of the prime tasks of country school. There is no single recipe to do this well. For a meal, not really. Recipe for meal. It's not talking about meal here, so contextually that can be eliminated straight away. Recipe for a lesson, recipe for a way to do this. Recipe for a way. It's not talking about lessons here. It's talking about way to do this well, but it may be helpful to consider the conditions which appear to be frequent to the primary schools whose work has been quoted, clear to the primary school, similar, shared to the primary school, shared to, we can't really use shared to, shared with, we normally use with shared, so common to, or it should be common, right? Which appears to be common to the primary school whose work has been quoted. Should be common between all of these. Common to is the right collocation here. So we're going to look at the answers now. All right, we've got the answers here. So we'll read it out quickly and see if it all makes sense. This short book has been concerned with the main tool of learning, language. Many children, particularly those in the industrial areas of the country, start their educational lives with this tool blunt, and live their early years in home circumstances which often conspire to keep it blunt. Again, we're using the same word that has been used previously in the article. With the lack of with the result, as the young sixth former wrote in chapter 1, that even he becomes increasingly conscious of his lack of fluency, which may become the most prominent manifestation of his embarrassment and discomfort. To avoid this, to give the child the confidence which drives from ease of speech and writing is surely one of the prime tasks of country's schools. There is no single recipe for a way to do this well, but it may be helpful to consider the conditions which appear to be common to the primary schools whose work has been quoted. So it all makes sense. So obviously, after doing all of the blanks, read it one more time to yourself and see if it all makes sense. We're gonna move on to the next one. Just getting a feel of the article. So for reading the first sentence kind of will give you an feel of the article. Evidence for genetic basis of antisocial behavior. So antisocial behavior is, I think what we're discussing here, stems from several different lines of research. So there has been a lot of research done, I think, on antisocial behavior. That's what it means. First, behavioral genetic studies of twins and adoptees have demonstrated that. So the first one we've got here is parenting, environment, heredity, and culture. When it talks of genetics, you need to know that parenting comes after genetics. I mean, parenting is external force, not genetic force. Environment is also external. Genetic is internal, right? So it's a genetic code of ourselves. And heredity and culture. Culture is external as well. Heredity is the only one that is internal. Heredity is a synonym of genetic. So we have to go with this. We have to go with genetics. So first, behavioral genetic studies of twins have demonstrated that heredity plays a role in antisocial behavior, including various forms of aggression and criminality, by finding greater concordance for such behavior in genetically individuals. Genetically identical, related, diverse, or idealized, compared to non-relative. So if you read after that gap, you can see it's talking about compared to non-relative relatives living in the same environment. So if it says non-relative, what's the opposite of non-relative? Related. So you got to talk about related. So these ones are saying by finding greater concordance for such behavior is genetically related individuals. That makes sense here. By looking at non-relatives, I'd go with that one. Living in the same environment. Second, various correlates of antisocial behavior, including personality factors. So including personal factors such as impulsivity, sensation seeking, risk taking, and callous unemotional traits are known to be at least partly genetically delivered, managed, directed, influenced. So these are all being influenced, right? These are influenced by all of these risk taking, all of that sensation seeking, all of those factors are influencing these genetically influenced, right? Third, psychiatric outcomes related to antisocial behavior, including antisocial personality disorder, gambling, and substance use and abuse, have also been inferred, investigated, inspected, integrated. So this is the research. Always remember that we started, different lines of research. And research investigate things, right? So contextually and in terms of collocation, I think I'm gonna go with investigated, right? Have also been investigated in genetically informative designs, and each of these have demonstrated significant genetic links. All right, so we're going to read it out to see if it all makes sense here. And these are the answers. Please review your answers. Evidence for a genetic basis of antisocial behavior stems from different lines of research. First, behavioral genetic studies of twins and adoptees have demonstrated their heredity plays a pivotal role in antisocial behavior, including various forms of aggression and criminality, by finding greater concordance for such behavior in generally genetically related individuals compared to non-relatives living in the same environment. Second, various correlates of antisocial behavior, including personality factors such as impulsivity, sensation seeking, risk taking, and callous unemotional traits, are known to be at least partly genetically influenced. Third, psychiatric outcomes related to antisocial behavior, including antisocial personality disorder, gambling, and substance use and abuse, have also been investigated in genetically informative designs, and each of these have demonstrated significant genetic links. So it all makes sense, right? Okay, we're gonna do our third activity here, a practice. I want you to pause the video here, do it on your own, and then we'll come back and we'll review this. All right, I hope you got a chance to do it on your own. Again, we're gonna read the article first. The first sentence should kind of give it an idea. I might not read it because it's 300 words. I'm gonna start reading the first sentence, kind of get an idea, and I'll start doing everything on my own. But very important that you read before the blank and after the blank to kind of get the correct, the complete context before you attempt doing anything. So umami was first identified in Japan. So this is probably about umami. This is something we don't really know what umami is, but we'll find out. When Dr. Kikunai Igida concluded that kombu, a type of edible seaweed, so it's edible seaweed, seaweed that people can eat, has a different taste than most most food. So had a different taste than most food. He conducted that found the high concentration of glutamide in kombu. So he conducted what? He conducted a research. Can be. I mean, we were doing the phrasal verbs, didn't we? Not phrasal verbs. We were doing collocations, verbs and nouns. Conduct. We did research. Conduct experiments. Can we conduct experiences? Not really. Conduct context? Not really. Conduct attempts? Not really. So after eliminating those three, I think C is the correct answer. Conduct experiments that found the high concentration of glutamate in kombu was what made it so tasty. From there, he crystallized monosodium glutamate, MSG, the seasoning that would become the world over, that will become spread, exported, exclusive, popular. So we need adjective here, become, the world over, is popular, right? It became popular around the world. So I'm gonna go with that. That makes a lot of sense here, grammatically and contextually. Decades later, umami became scientifically defined as one of the 5 individual tastes sensed by receptors on the fingers, mouth, tongue, and jaws. I mean, it's very easy, pretty simple, that you have receptors that taste something. So taste kind of give you an idea. You don't have it on fingers, you don't have it on your mouth, and it says on the. So on the mouth, you don't have those things, and then jaws, you don't have that either. So you have it on your receptors are on tasters. Your taste buds are located on your tongue, right? So we're gonna go with tongue. All right, then in 1996, a team of University of Miami researchers studying taste perception made another big breakthrough. They discovered separate taste receptor cells in the tongue, and it kind of gives it here as well. So in tongue. So if you were reading, you can make sure that you got it right. For detecting umami. Before then, the concept was uncharted. Up until our research, the predominant wisdom or insignificant wisdom, important wisdom, or in our generous wisdom. Here, I will go with predominate. Up until our research, the Predominate, insignificant, important, enormous. So predominate most amount of wisdom in the scientific community. So it's talking about majority of the people, right? Majority of the so scientific community kind of gives you an idea that predominant or predominate. Predominate is the correct answer here because talking about the scientific community. So predominant wisdom in the scientific community was that umami was not a separate sense, right? So it can be important, but predominant because most of the people believe that. That's what it means. Predominate wisdom in the scientific community was that umami was not separate sense. In the community, this was what people thought, most of them. It was just a combination of the other four qualities: salt, salty, sweet, bitter, sour. Explained Dr. Stephen Roper, the University of Miami physiology and biophysics professor who helped zero in on the taste along with Nirupa Chaudhary, the team's lead researcher. We're going to read it out and we'll see, if it all makes sense. Umami was first identified in Japan in 1908 when Dr. Kikuan Ikade concluded that kombu, a type of edible seaweed, had a different taste than most foods. He conducted experiments that found that the high concentration of glutamate in kombu was what made it so tasty. From there, he crystallized monosodium glutamate, MSG, the seasoning that would become popular the world over. Decades later, umami became significantly defined as one of the 5 individual tastes sensed by receptors on tongue. Then in 1996, a team of University of Miami researchers studying taste perception made another breakthrough. They discovered separate taste receptors cells in the tongue for detecting umami. Before then, the concept was uncharted up until our research that predominate wisdom in the scientific community was that umami was not a separate sense. It was just a combination of our other 4 qualities: salty, sweet, bitter, sour, explained Dr. Stephen Roper. The University of Miami physiology and biophysics professor who helped zero in on the taste along with Nirupa Chaudhary, the team's lead researcher. So it all makes sense when you read it out like that. We're going to do another one now, and we're going to read it out. Global climate change is the greatest environment. So this is about global climate change, as you can see. You don't have to read the whole thing. You can just straight it go into reading and solving it one by one. Global climate change is the greatest environment challenge we face. We have at most a few decades to make the necessary investments to prevent the most serious impacts of climate change. Future generations will judge us based on the investments we are considering now. In its February 2007 report, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, warns that global emissions must peak no later than 2015 if we are to hold average global temperature increases to 2.4 Celsius, 4.3 Fahrenheit, or less. Moving to an emission pathway that will hold temperature increases to a minimum will require I was gonna say significant effort, but can you think of a synonym for significant? Colossal. Colossal is the only correct synonym that we can use here. It means significant, right? Colossal effort. There is no time to lose given the long lag in research and development cycles and energy-intensive agriculture, architecture, infrastructure, conjecture. Infrastructure, isn't it? Energy, incentive, infrastructure, and product turnover. Fundamentally, the world's energy system is unlikely to occur within its time frame. Fundamentally altering, we want to alter, don't we? The world's energy system to stop this destruction, isn't it? So we want to alter this. Fundamentally, altering the world's energy system is unlikely to occur within this time frame. We've got a time frame here, right? 2015, all of that. But it will be not possible to do that in that time frame. It is thus imperative to find means to reduce the footprint of existing system, most particularly of coal, which is the most greenhouse gas intensive of the fossil fuels driving climate change. It is in the context that carbon dioxide captures and sequestration, CCS, becomes one of the most critical technologies in the menu of choices. It is the only option that provides a potentially near-term solution to rapidly expanding coal use here, in China and around the world. CCS must play the critical role of growth in the emissions from coal until other alternatives are ready. Role of sustaining, curbing, dividing, increasing. It should be reducing, right? Reducing comes to mind, but synonym of reducing is curbing, isn't it? So you're going to use curbing growth in emissions from coal until their other alternatives are ready. That's what it's trying to do, isn't it? It's trying to reduce that growth in emissions. So curbing will be correct answer here. Okay, we're gonna move and see if the answers are correct. Okay, I hope you got a chance to do it on your own. If not, please pause the video here if I didn't explain that earlier. That's how it goes. So you pause the video, try to do it on your own, and then come and check how I am doing it, and then I show you the answers, and I will read out the whole article to see if it makes sense. So the correct answers are glossal, infrastructure, altering, and curbing. Cool. All right, let's look at this one. This one is about peering into the future seldom produces a clear picture. Okay, so if you look at the future, it doesn't really show us the correct picture, but this is not the case. I was going to say the case, but circumstances, occurrence, incidents, and condition. I think it's circumstances. We're going to go with circumstances with bioenergy. That's the correct collocation to use. So it makes sense logically as well. So, but this is not the circumstances with bioenergy. I think we're talking about bioenergy. That's our topic. So let's keep reading. This long-term impact on the global economy appears to be pretty clear, making many long-term predictions quite compelling, including the demise of the price-setting power of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and the end of agriculture protectionism. First, technology is set to deliver, I was going to say, but let's see, assured to deliver, bound to deliver, bound to deliver. So we know this, if you read a lot of articles, you see this is bound to do something. So first, technology is bound to deliver a biofuel that will be competitive with fossil energy at something like current prices. It probably already has. Brazil has been exporting ethanol to the US at an average delivery price of $1.4 for an amount with the energy equivalence of a gallon of petrol. It is doing so profitably and in increasing amounts in spite of a 54 cents a gallon tariff to protect American maize-based ethanol producers. So ethanol is a production thing. It's not a programmer or a director. So harvester is not harvested. So you should think about it. It's produced things that produces, right? So they're trying to protect. Is doing so profitably in spite of 54 cents to protect American maize-based ethanol producers. Many countries are following suit. But ethanol is an inconvenient chemical compound that is corrosive and soluble in water, thus limiting its immediate market to that of a gasoline additive. However, this is just a Betamax phase of the industry. There is plenty of private venture capital money being poured. Okay, this is again a collocation, and it's, we pour the money. This is important for you to know, and you must have heard this many times when we talk about, money is being poured in that project, money is being poured in that project. This one should ring a bell for you. So we can straight away use money poured. We can also use spend, but money is being spent or poured seems more, in terms of collocation, most appropriate. Money is being poured into finding more efficient ways of extracting energy from biomass and delivering it to transport and power systems. Over time, the technology will also become more flexible, allowing more crops to be used as feedstock, not just the current choice of sugarcane, maize, and palm oil. New technologies will be able to extract energy from cellulose, allowing the use of pastures such as switchgrass, as well as the refuse of current food production. So let's look at the answer. So please pause and do it on your own. And if you have done it on your own, then we will see the answers. So the correct answers are circumstances, bound, produces, ethanol produces, and poured into finding more efficient ways of extracting energy. And I want to make few points here, very important points, is when you're doing your reading and writing fill in the blanks, and let's talk about reading fill in the blanks first. The most important thing is that you think about the context, you read the whole article without paying attention to the blanks, and then you do the blanks one by one, thinking about number one, your context, think about your grammatical cues, and think about collocations. Very important. Another thing I want to talk about is reading and writing. In reading and writing, don't worry about reading the whole paragraph first. Just start reading and get a feel. Your first sentence should help you to understand the topic, and then you start reading around before and after the blank, and try to understand, where, what the context is. Understand the full context first, then think about collocations. If you have heard some of these collocations before, read somewhere, you go with that, and think about the grammatical cues there as well. Okay, but it's going to give you the options, so it will be easier for your reading and writing skills. And lastly, I want to really emphasize on your practice. You got to practice at least 100 of reading and writing and reading fill in the blanks before you go in the exam. There's a ton of material out there on YouTube, Google, and you do all of that, and it should be from official sources, so that you have a better chance of doing a lot of reading before you go into the exam, because it's going to give you the vocabulary to look for and the topics to look for. The topics could be science, arts, history, business, education, a lot of academic articles. And another thing I want to emphasize on is make it a habit of reading things. If you like reading, that's great, but some people just don't like reading. And these days, when we have TikTok and Instagram, and we like to just scroll things, we've stopped reading, and that's kind of going to not help you in this situation. So you want to start reading the newspapers, you want to start reading articles, magazines, and try to read the science articles if you can, and history articles, and whatever articles you can find. If you make it a habit, then you will learn, you will see a lot of collocations. You will also see a lot of technical vocabulary that you can come across in your test, and you will have a better shot at doing the exam and doing really, really good in your exam. Okay, with that, I will leave you here, and I'll see you in the next one. But I hope you got a great foundation of the skills that are needed and the practice that you need to do. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.